All right, Alan, it's been 5 years in the making. Is it going to happen this week, this month?
Yeah, it looks like it. President Obama wouldn't have gone to the lengths that he has if it wasn't going to come off. If they don't pull it off now, they probably wouldn't be able to get it through the US Congress for a year. So I think that explains the timing.
Politics is certainly at play. There's a huge swath of Americans who are starting to wake up to what TPP is politically. Joseph Stiglitz, very interestingly enough, said that this is too secretive of a process. Does this weaken any possibility of a TPP deal?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's very noisy opposition to this, and there always is opposition in the United States when free trade agreements are negotiated. But no, that's not going to be a factor. That's much overstated, that problem. The US government does consult industry people on these measures. What it doesn't consult are wider groups. And the usual coalition, anti-free trade coalition, unionists, health activists, they're the ones who have been maintaining this campaign.
Oh, but that's the problem, isn't it? It's those groups of interested parties, and at the end of the day, it's a democracy there, and we're looking ahead to the 26 elections. There are a lot of angry voters out there. Could TPP be one of the issues that are being made as something to defeat?
I don't think so. I mean, if there's any bellwether of US attitudes among the people, it'll be the Congress. And the interesting thing about this agreement is that President Obama has succeeded in getting the agreement of the US Congress to a straight up and down yes or no vote on this TPP agreement. That required a great deal of work. It hadn't been put in place before. And I think it tells you that while the activists are very noisy, I don't think there's a general attitude in the community at large against it. And if that was the case, the Congress wouldn't have given this negotiating process to the President. This agreement is an interesting one because of what it actually lays out is a future. Most of the trade agreements we've had in the past are all about reducing barriers to trade in goods. That time's past. Tariffs are quite low around the world. Growth now depends upon governments which are willing to open their services markets, willing to accept investment and have a high standard intellectual property. The economies which join this agreement or follow those principles will be the ones which will grow in future. Those who don't won't.
Is this an economic threat to China, perhaps? How are other ASEAN nations and these Asian nations viewing this?
Well, I think you've put your finger on a very interesting point here. When this agreement was first started, it was really the US plus its friends. Most of the FTAs, most of the parties negotiating already had FTAs with the US. What changed the game was when Japan joined. Suddenly we had an agreement here which had a lot of weight. You had now 40% of world GDP, and at that point China started showing some interest. Now, Chinese were basically told by the US that they weren't ready to join this negotiation, but it stimulated something else. Right now in APEC, there's discussion developing about a bigger free trade agreement which would be among all APEC countries and would include China. That might be a decade off, but the TPP really is the stepping stone to a much bigger agreement, and that will have 60% of world trade. That would be really something.